Meetup. So we are now recording and we will post that to our YouTube channel. We have a Slack workspace, and then I forgot this yesterday, but we do have a Blue Sky account if you want to follow us on Blue Sky, and we will try and post all our links to our meetups that are upcoming there as well. All right, today's speaker is Bobby Carruthers. Bobby is a senior data analyst at the WashU School of Public Health, specifically in the Center for Public Health System Science, where she does a lot of cool data analytics, including network analysis and some great data viz. She was one of our experts at the very first Our Lady St. Louis meetup in 2017, so 8 years ago when we started this group. Her work includes a lot of online survey tools, analysis, report and paper development. And I started to list out all the organizations that Bobby has done work for. And it was such a long list, it went like onto a whole another slide. So just suffice it to say, local, regional, state, and national health organizations and other partners she has worked for over in recent years. So I think that's it. That is the end of my slides. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Bobby, and I will put that GitHub repository for the materials for today in the chat once again. So welcome.
Thank you, Janine. Yeah, the list is long because I've been around a while for here. And I think Janine was actually on my hiring committee when I interviewed like in 2009. We worked together for a long time.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
All right. And actually one of the things that I think got me this job was I was interviewing with Doug Luke, and I had mentioned that I worked in R, and he kind of perked right up. This is one of the things that actually kind of landed me here, which is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share my entire secondary screen here just so you can see what's up. Okay. So this is kind of packaged in a Shiny app, and it's really simple. There's a server file, a UI file, and kind of the meat of this is a list. It's an Excel file of trigger words and replacements for them. And this is just kind of a crowdsourced list. The trigger words were leaked at some point as words that DOJ would flag for grant submissions. So it's been added to, and the replacements are, again, crowdsourced. And one thing to note is some of the replacement words were later ended up as trigger words as well. So you might need to do this as an iterative project. So the kind of the how this all came about was I was tasked with helping to write a grant renewal, and they gave us, an Excel file with like 400 words on it. And I was like, don't include these words. I'm like, oh, how do we, write something and not include all these words? And I was like, it just really drove me nuts. So I procrastinated and wrote an app that was essentially a fancy Control F to find words in a Word document that we can't say. And so this is how this came about. All right. So the easiest way to kind of show this off is just to walk through it. And we'll just go ahead and run it. And the great thing about Shiny apps is you can just run them locally. So I'm just running this right off the desktop of my machine. All right. So here's what it looks like. Again, sorry, you're here. One of the things, you can, be careful about running grants through. You don't want to run a grant through an open ChatGPT, because it's going to take your grant and it uses it to train the bot, and now your grant has been made public, which you don't want to do. And even kind of restrained sandbox AIs, you're not really sure what exactly they're doing to do what they're doing. And they're pretty resource intensive. So if you don't want to do any of that, you can use this instead. It's great. So the idea is you're taking this trigger list of words, and you can upload your Microsoft Word documents, your grants, and it'll look through your grant and see if any of these words match up. And if they do, it'll spit them out in this document chat box. So so here is that Excel list that I just showed you. So for your end users who are not probably going to be our users, you can if you want to host this on a Shiny Apps IO server, you can, or if you just want to run it locally on your own machine, you can, whatever you want to do. You can look for your words here and say, and again, this is an evolving list. They're probably adding words all the time. We want to future-proof this as much as possible. So it's like, well, say, maybe for some reason the word city is no longer a word we can say. Is that included in here? Well, it's not. Well, geez, I want to add some words. Can I do that? Yes, you can. So the way to do that here is you can download download this either as an Excel file or a CSV, and you can add to it, and then you can re-upload it. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to save this in a little demo file. It's already named for me. All right. Okay. So here is my word list. I'm going to add the word city to it. So that, and you can add, however many you want, so that you can make sure you have all your bases covered. Oh, I have to enable entity. There we go. This metropolitan area, maybe. All right. And for demonstration purposes, just because sometimes, people, there's, stray, you delete something by mistake or whatever, stuff happens. Who knows? Let's see what happens if that gets changed. All right. So now to re-upload my new file. It starts off saying, well, it's only going to accept CSV or Excel files. Just by mistake, let's see what happens if I try to upload something else in there. Nope, you cannot upload a Word document there. You can only upload a CSV or Excel. All right, so let's try this again. I will do the right file this time. And oh, it's not going to like that I changed that header. Well, okay. I will go back and do what I'm supposed to do. Make sure I do it right. This is all called validation, because you always want to assume that folks are going to get busy or, do something stray. And you want to protect against that and build in some error messages that make sense. All right, so let's try this again. All right, looks like it worked. And is my new word in there? Let's see. There it is. All right, even has my suggestion. So I have my new list set up. And again, you could add a whole bunch of words, whatever you need to make this more flexible. Or if for some reason you don't need to check some words, you can edit, whatever edits you need to do, you can. The main things is that you can only have 2 columns in your file, and they have to be name, trigger, and replacement. Those are the requirements. And we just saw what happens when you do not meet those requirements. And if you really goof it up, you can hit this button and it'll just give you the original list back. So if you're having a really bad day, you can hit that reset button. All right, so now that we've got my list set up, I can upload my Microsoft Word document. I think most places where you're going to be submitting a federal grant, it has to be, I think it's either PDF or Microsoft Word. So you're going to have it in this format. Anyway, I am going to actually just upload a paper that Janina and I wrote many years ago. And here are the words that it flagged. So all the words that are in this file, if they show up here where that we said, so this is the kind of words that get flagged. Advocacy, we can't say that. We can't say barrier. We can't say community. We can't say diverse. All these horrible things. All right. So now I have my list of words. I've done essentially my giant Control F. And if you want to either send this back to someone who had you upload this, you can. Here's, you just download it. Here's my flagged words, and let's open it up. And you can export this as, again, either a CSV or Excel. And so you can take this back and do your Control F and edit your Word documents as you see fit. And some of these replacements work for you, some of them won't. So that's how it works. So given that, let us go through and see how it works. We've seen what it does. Now let's see how it does it. And for that, I'll show you the code. So let's do a little bit of a side-by-side. First, I'll just do the UI, which is the user interface, which just shows us how everything looks. It's not too difficult. This is a pretty low-key application. So I put all my libraries in the UI file, and I always just say what they do. This is a Shiny dashboard. It's really simple. And so here is, the header. That's what you're seeing up here. And then just the opening paragraphs in this first box. That's what this welcome box is. And then this next box here is the trigger list box. Here again is the wording for that. And then here, that DT output, that's data table output. That is that Excel file. That's what this thing is here. Some more wording. The download button for an Excel file, a download button for the CSV file, and then that's that input file. This is where you plug that. If you want to upload a new list, you can. That's what this is. That's a file input widget. And then that action button of, oh, I screwed up. Take me back. And then our next box is, again, that document checker, which the start of it is uploading that new trigger file, or that's, sorry, I'm in the wrong thing. There we go. Our intro wording, our document upload, another DT output, data table output, those are the flag words. And again, our download buttons, our flagged words in an Excel file, or our flagged words in a CSV file. So that's the skin of it. Here's the guts. And so the funny thing about this is the heart of this whole application is really this one line right here. All this does is it takes all those words in that trigger column and it matches them up to see if there's any, if they show up in a word string that's created from your uploaded document. And if they are, it says, yep, they are. That's the heart. That's the heart of this thing. Everything else is literally just window dressing. That's all this is. So when I first wrote this is the first line of code I wrote, and actually just an RMD file just to see if it would work, and it did. And so everything else is built around this. So with that in mind, I'll do a little bit of a walkthrough just to show you how you can kind of build and test this. So what it first does is before I even start the Shiny server, I put everything that is not going to be reactive kind of up top. And that's because every time when you're in Shiny, every time you kind of do a thing, it runs through the whole list of code. So if there's something that's not, that doesn't change at all, then you can put it ahead of your Shiny server, and that just helps to optimize it so that every time something changes, there's less for it to run through. This is something that that loads up when you first open it. It does its thing, and then it's ready to go. So it first it uploads that Excel file that I first showed you. So that's the base Excel file that we're starting with. It puts that in a workbook object. And I also bumped up the file size limits to 10 MB. The default is 5. So if you know that for your uses, you're going to need something larger, this is where you change that. And then a function, this is just that data table display. Essentially, anytime I'm going to do something more than once, and there's a bunch of stuff to it, I write a function with a little bit of customizability. So the only things I have to customize here are which data frame I'm going to show and kind of what doodads I want from a data table. There's a couple of options there that I'm going to want, and they're going to be a little different. And this is a little thing where it automatically inserts a scroll bar if it's a certain length. Alrighty, so the first thing it does is it takes that workbook file and we put it, we extract the data frame. So it's extracting that that first thing. And so what I want to do is I'm going to stop my first run. If you want to test how things are looking, how your objects look in a Shiny app, there's a couple of tricks to do this. I'm going to put a little additional caret there. And so I'm going to rerun the app. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and upload my new list. So I've done a little thing with my app. And now, so that little stop sign tells me that my app is running. And I'm going to stop it. And oh, look at that. We have saved an object in our local environment. And the thing with reactive stuff is it's kind of tough to see and to visualize what you're working with as you're building an app. So I do this quite often as I'm building something to check what my what my objects are. And when you get an object that's a function, that often happens when you're working with reactive stuff. The way to get it is, call it a little different, to isolate it. And so this is a very important thing to know how to do. I'm isolating that function. And here is how I actually get that data frame. So working with reactivity does take a little bit of getting used to, but this is very helpful so that you can see what it's actually doing. And so here is that data frame with my trigger words, my replacement words. And this is something that the code does a little bit later to make things work. So we'll see a little bit of that later. All right. And here is that table function that I showed you earlier. And so I'm telling it, so take that trigger data frame and put it in a data table. And there's a couple things I want to show. I want to show the table itself, and F is that little find window. It's called search, it's fine. Because data table adds a whole bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily want to have every single time I do it. But in this case, I just wanted the search and the table itself. So those are my only customizations there. And so that's that table output there. Here is that downloader to download that original Excel file. So if I wanted XL, here's that functionality there. If I wanted to do it as a CSV, they click this download button instead, and that's the code that takes that, again, original file and puts it in the CSV and exports it. All right, so if we wanted to upload a new trigger list, this is actually the tricky part. Uploading or file inputs are, there's a couple of steps to this. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a test here. So again, this input trigger upload refers to, I'm starting fresh again, this little input right here. So I'm gonna, again, upload my customized list. Back. Stop it. Okay. So I've come up with this little test object. And so when I run that upload, the first thing it does, this is the first step. We get a little data frame. This is the file name of that file, the application type, and the data path. So this is just the first step, and so we're not just uploading the file immediately. It does a little test first. So one thing I want to do, so part of my validation was it takes a look at that extension in that name, and if it's not a CSV or Excel, that's where it gave us this. Nice try. Do it again. So you want to do that, and otherwise, if it is a CSV, it says, okay, go ahead and read the CSV. And then it takes that data path and then it turns it into a temp file. Otherwise, if it's Excel, then go ahead, read that data path, turns it into a temp file. So now we have another check. So this is the second step of my validation. This is where it checks to see if it's if it only has 2 columns and those columns are named correctly. And if it is, I'm going to remake that data frame, that trigger data frame, and do a couple things. I'm going to do a little, I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup here, and do a little row calculation that's going to help me later on. So this is really important. So trigger df, remember way back when I called trigger df, I put that as a reactive value. So when I do that, that means I can change this later on. So the way you change that later on is calling trigger df again in that observe event. So we're not stuck with just the one data file. So that's a fun thing with reactivity. It's a little tricky, but it gives you a lot of flexibility. And again, here's that other validation. If those aren't, if what I got in that file was not what I was expecting, so let's try it again. Here are the names you gave me. Here are the names you need to have, and that's it. So you want to have this validation built in, so that because if things don't line up the way they're supposed to be, if you're an R user, you're kind of sometimes those error messages are kind of cryptic. So you want to give something that a normal human is going to be able to understand. And again, if we screw something up, they hit that restore button, it just replaces everything with that original list. All right, so now to our document upload. Again, a lot of this is kind of that same validation. If you don't give me a docx, I'm going to be grumpy. And then again, reading in that docx file. So we're going to do this again. I'll show you what that word string looks like. Go ahead, upload list, upload a document. Okay. Stop it. Okay. Here is a word string. Okay. And so, lo and behold, it takes that Word document and turns it into one long string. So that's a lot of fun. And so now here's where we get to the meat of that application. We're taking this data frame, all the words in here, and we're comparing, and we're going to see if they all line up in here. And what you can do locally, let's, what do I want to do? You can take the things that we just saved out. Place all your reactive ones. Let's see, and then and just to get an idea of like that first step, what I always do is I just kind of strip things down just to their barest essentials first. And so this is essentially all it does is for every list, for every word in that list, and there's, several hundred of them, does it show up in the Word document, true or false? And then you can essentially go through all this and you uncomment each line and build it back up and see what it's doing as you go through. And I can let you do that on your own to have fun with it. And then once you build that list, it puts it in that data table. This time, I just want to show the table itself. I don't want to have that search window. If you don't have any words that show up, so you get essentially a null object. It says, nope, you're done, you're clean. So you'll probably do this through a few iterations. You're all set and you're good to go. And then here is where you can export your flag word list again in that download handler. If you're doing an Excel, this is all the Excel stuff to do. If you're doing CSV, that's all the CSV stuff to do. And that's it. That's how you build a Shiny app that is essentially a giant Control F for a Word document. And so here is where I will take questions. We have a lot in the chat, so.
Oh, that was mostly me
Okay.
posting where I'm gonna put the recording of your workshop and posting the material. We have, I think, a bunch of people in here now that maybe weren't here at the very beginning. Is there any way you could do like 2 minutes on just showing off the app one more time?
Yeah, yep. I will clean up what I've done here.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. All right, so essentially, I will do a search for whenever I've done that. Go to all those. Yep. All right. So
basically you just opened the R file that's in that GitHub. And then you hit run app to open the app. Pretty much.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. So again, these are the 3 files that are in that that are up on GitHub. And what they do is this is we take this list of words that again are crowdsourced that we figured out that if they show up in your document, Doge flags it, and some replacements. This list is 372 words long and includes nasty things like women and all that stuff. And
Terrible.
I know, you can run the app. It starts off with that list of words. You can search for a word because again, this is an ever evolving list. Who knows what else is on it now? So say we can't say the word city anymore. Well, it's not on there yet, but we can customize our list. We first download an Excel file. Yep. And we add our word to it. You can add up to 10 megabyte file, megabyte file. Let's see. We upload our new file. Is it there? There it is, right? We upload our grant, or in this case, a paper we wrote way back when. All the words that are that we can't say are flagged, and we can download that list. Save it. And now we have a list of naughty words that we can't say that we can go back and do a little control Fing on our own with our Word documents and edit as needed. And do this, maybe go through this a couple times because sometimes some of these replacement suggestions later on appear as trigger words too. So it's fun. All right. Any questions?
Have you used this successfully in some grants before you've submitted them and caught yourself with a word that you thought you had omitted and it was still in there?
Right. We have used it in so basically I've handed this off to other folks. I'm tired of writing this stuff. You guys do it. And it generally does take a couple iterations. Because it's I mean some of the grants I'm on are several hundred pages.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no way you can keep all that in mind as you're writing this stuff. So it's like I think probably the best tactic is just write the grant, as well as you can the first time. And then, do your first run through this and just kind of do an iterative process. It's gonna be at least twice to run through, probably, depending on the size of the grant. But yeah, so I know it's been used on at least 2 grants so far, and that I've been involved with. We kind of have it internal to the center right now. I'm kind of caught between this, we need to, share this around, but we have to be careful who sees this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a decentralized approach to sharing this is great. Um, and so yeah, so it's good to hand, if you want to host it on your own Shiny app, like a Shiny app server, if you have your own account, maybe keep it locked, and kind of restrict who has access to it. But yeah, so it's how do you share this? That's a
Yeah.
good question. And in terms of app security, if it's on Shiny apps, it's probably not going to take down the whole server if somebody uploads malicious code. There's a little bit so that whenever you had the opportunity to upload anything, there is the opportunity for someone to upload malicious code. Um, I I do a little bit. I mean, the checks that I do here are pretty basic. As I was looking at this, I can probably do a little bit more on this end in terms of going just beyond the file extension and actual the application. I might do some more work on that to make sure it's like, yeah, sure, it's called the extension is an Excel file, but is it really some exe that's been disguised as something else?
Yeah.
So I need to do a little bit more work on that. I just had the idea for that this morning. I was like, oh, there's this other thing I can check. So I need to look at cross-platform stuff and do a little bit more legwork on that. But yeah, I mean, there's in terms of the thing about this is it's pretty isolated on its own, so there's no access to other stuff really. But in terms of if it's up on Shiny apps, it should be fine. But yeah, so that's why you kind of want to be careful about who you share this with.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of weak points there that I'm not going to fool myself that they're foolproof right now. So
I think
be careful with that.
I think this could be useful beyond grants too. I mean, our language changes a lot in science where we learn more and adopt new terminology. And if you
Mhm.
have some work that you've already been doing for a long time and we've learned to replace maybe stakeholders with interest holders or something like that, you could use a tool like this to go through your work and find those replacements. So
Yeah. Yeah.
lots of uses for this. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all this is just a fancy Control F.
yeah. Big fancy Control F. You don't have to do it one at a time, 400 times. So
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you so much for taking your lunch time to share this with us. And I'm going to post this on YouTube, and I included the materials. I'll put those on YouTube. You've got some people in the chat that are loving it. So thank you so much for your great work on this, Bobby.
Thanks for coming and taking a look.
Yeah. All right. See you all later.